Homage to the Triple Gem. So the Buddha has an interesting word for the in and out breath, and that he calls it a body among bodies. So this is a little bit of a cryptic statement, but when we look at the way that the Anapanasati Sutta is laid out, what it essentially ties in with is that there's a lot more to the breath than just the air that's coming in and out of the lungs. So many medical systems and religious systems have a word for a type of breath energy that exists in the body. So in India, they call it prana. They've called it prana. In China, they've called it ki. And I imagine that they have other names for it in other systems as well. So this energy system that exists in the body is what the Buddha calls a body among bodies. In other words, it's an energy system that overlays the body, that can run along major tendons and overlaps with the physical structures of the body, and also gives them the energy that they need to move, gives them the energy that they need to live and to survive. So Ajahn Lee was the monk who, in the modern era, pioneered and looked into the way that this energy system interacts with the body and the ways in which it can be used in breath meditation. And in doing so, gave a much fuller picture of what's essentially meant by breath meditation, which maps very, very well onto the Anapanasati Sutta. So sometimes when we'll think of breath meditation as just being like air coming into the nose, going out of the nose. And the job is to watch the air coming in and out of the nose. So actually there are monks who've gotten excellent results from doing that. But the Buddha's way of teaching breath meditation was much more comprehensive. So there's actually a sutta in which there's a monk who says that he practices mindfulness of breathing. And the Buddha asks him, how do you practice mindfulness of breathing? He basically says, having put away thoughts of the past, thoughts of the future, and with regards to sensuality, basically breathes in mindfully, breathes out mindfully. The Buddha says there is that type of breath meditation. I don't say there isn't, but listen to how breath meditation is perfected or brought to completion. Then he gives these 16 steps of breath meditation. So the first of those 16 steps is essentially that a person learns to breathe in and out, being mindful of the breath. So if one's breathing in and out short, one knows how to breathe in and out. One knows one is breathing in and out short. If one is breathing in and out long, then one knows that one is breathing in and out long. And so they give the example in the Satipatthana Sutta, I believe, of they call a skilled turner. I don't know what a turner is actually, but can imagine. A skilled turner is somebody who knows when they're making a long turn, knows when they're making a short turn. It sounds like something to do with carpentry. In the same way, a monk remains mindful of the breath as it turns from the in-breath to the out-breath, from the out-breath back to the in-breath, and as it's going along. So this is one aspect of breath meditation, is being able to direct the mind to the breath in such a way that it's not manipulating it, in such a way that it's equanimous. And developing this equanimity is an important skill for reducing passion, and also in the modern era, it can be especially important for reducing anxiety. Another of the steps that's in the first, what they call tetrad, sets of 4 instructions, is to breathe in and out, calming the body. So that actually comes last, but can be done beforehand. And this is where that breath energy meditation, that breath energy system comes into a person's practice of meditation. Because this breath energy, since it overlays with the body, since it works with the body, it can also be used, it can also be manipulated to relax the body. One of the really interesting things that one can notice when one comes to meditate is that in order for there to be thoughts that occur in the mind, there has to be a pattern of tension occurring in the body somewhere. So thoughts tend to run along lines of tension, and the ways and patterns in which a person thinks are related to patterns of tension within the body. So the body and the mind are not necessarily they are distinct things, but they interact in ways that can enmesh them more than a person might normally think until they come to practice meditation. So when a person relaxes the patterns of tension that exist in their body, then what they're doing is they're actually removing the potential for a foothold for thoughts to come into being in certain these places, because thoughts require a pattern of tension in order to exist. So this energy system is something that one can encounter as one is practicing meditation, as one is being mindful, because one may notice as one is breathing, it's almost like there's energy trying to come up to the head and it's hitting blocks in the body. It's kind of running into things and then ends up coming to the head. One may notice certain types of things with energy. If one is feeling particularly at ease, particularly peaceful, that may start for some people in the chest and then spread out from the chest. So this energy system is something that one encounters as one comes to practice breath meditation, kind of trying to learn to still one's thoughts. One encounters what it is that gives rise to thoughts in a much more comprehensive way than one would have imagined. So what is a big part of almost any meditation practice is perception. And because the breath is one of the only parts of the automatic functions of the body that one has conscious control over, it can also teach a person quite a lot about the way that perceptions impact the body and the way that perceptions impact a person's experience of the world. So when one imagines the breath coming in and out of particular parts of the body, then that can actually change the patterns of tension in that body. You might even start to notice like that body might feel a little bit shinier, look a little bit shinier. This is kind of like glow that people get depending on where they focus their meditation sometimes. So these are real phenomenon that one can encounter, and they can be manipulated to a certain extent through perceptions. So when one develops a perception that I'm going to breathe in and out from this particular part of the body, I'm going to breathe in and out relaxing tension, imagining the breath energy working into the tension, then one may find that that tension actually releases. And so this can show quite a lot about the impact that the mind can have on the body. What needs to happen first before one can really work with the breath energy in a more comprehensive way that the Buddha's described is that one has to change one's perception of it so that it's not just air that's coming in and out of the lungs, but it's this energy that's in the body and is also all around it. And what that means is that one can learn to pull the breath energy in and out of not just any part of the body, but in and out of the whole body. And this is one of the instructions, again, in the first tetrad of breath meditation, that one breathes in and out with the whole body. So traditionally, that's been, in the commentaries, not traditionally back to the time of the Buddha, but in the commentaries, that's been assumed to mean that one breathes in and out mindful of this whole body of breath. So through the whole in-breath, one is watching, through the whole out-breath, one is watching, and one is watching as these things change. But the actual meaning is that one breathes in and out with the whole body. One can see this in the similes that are given in the canon, where people learn to work feelings of happiness, feelings of pleasure into their body, like a skilled bathman, or like a lake with an underground source, and the water comes up and fills the whole lake. So this ability to work with the body and work with its energy system is important to be able to follow the instructions that the Buddha's laid out for spreading feelings of pleasure, feelings of joy, feelings of rapture through the body. So a lot of what we encounter in meditation can have to do with perceptions that we try to hold in mind, or that we've been holding in mind, both consciously and unconsciously, that shape our world and also shape our physical reality, shape the reality of our body, shape the way that we hold our body, shape the way that energy is routed through the body. And in order to become a skilled meditator, one needs to learn to work with these perceptions. And one will also encounter some things that are only stated briefly in the canon, but in reality cover quite a lot more ground, or we can't say more ground, cover quite a lot of ground underneath that brief statement. So, breathe in and out, calming and relaxing the body. There's many different ways that one can do this. And it's a mark of the Buddha's skill as a teacher that he was able to encapsulate in a very simple phrase and very simple categories practices that can run the gamut from, imagining the breath just working the way into the tension to, imagining the breath, say, like coming in through the base of the neck and relaxing everything as it goes down the spine. It's essentially something one is only limited by one's imagination, essentially, in terms of the ways that one can conceive the breath, say, just relaxing the body. So this aspect of being able to work with perceptions is important even in a physical meditation object like the breath, but it can become much more important in objects of meditation that are more based on holding intentions in mind, and especially objects of meditation that are based on holding perceptions in mind. So it was been messaging on Discord and got a message today with a question about anxiety, actually. And one of the things in dealing with anxiety is that there's a particular perception that a person has in their mind, but that perception is often false and kind of turns out to be false, and then one still hasn't realized that the next time some perception comes up that seems really convincing again, that it's false. So this aspect of being able to hold a particular perception in mind is really important for developing a skill or a craft in shaping one's perceptions, shaping one's world, and shaping the way that the mind reacts to it. One can look at the way that the breath actually impacts emotional states and gives rise to them, and the way that the breath impacts thought patterns. So another one of the tetrads in the breath meditation steps is that one learns to breathe in and out, gladdening the mind, calming the mind, etc. So there's ways and patterns in which one breathes that can influence and give rise to emotional states. Now, of course, the thing that's behind all of this is intention. It's not, in the West, we tend to have this attitude that everything starts with the body and then goes up to the mind. In Buddhism, it's the opposite. The mind is the forerunner, but the body can influence, especially through patterns of thought, patterns of behavior. So what we can do is to notice the way in which we hold our body, the way in which we breathe, the way in which the breath energy seems like it's routing when we're calm. Notice the way in which we hold our body, notice the way we breathe, notice the way the breath energy is routing when we're anxious. And then we can learn to try to still that anxiety, or still that anger, or still whatever it is, by breathing in the opposing direction. And this can bring the mind back to a state of balance. I mean, it's not going to necessarily uproot that defilement. That requires clear seeing in terms of what kind of idea do I have that something is going to give me happiness by being angry or by being anxious? Like, what is it that I'm clinging to that's giving rise to these emotions, and why can't I let it go? That's more of an aspect of investigating with discernment. But being able to manipulate the breath in such a way that it removes one from this mental state, at least temporarily, to give one a respite, is an important skill for bringing the mind back into balance. What one can tend to notice as well is that trying to bring the mind back into balance this way, trying to breathe in a particular way, the patterns of tension in the body and the way in which the energy is routed in the body can change. Almost like the energy that goes through the body can create like grooves. There's ways in which the body will tense in order to facilitate energy going in a particular way, particular types of thought patterns. And the more a person engages in these types of thought patterns, types of intentions, the easier it becomes for energy to route that way. So as we learn to practice meditation, as we become more and more diligent in applying a particular perception, a particular intention, say just to come back to the breath or to breathe in a calm way, the easier and easier that can become for a person. And this has physical correlations with the body. So when one wants to practice meditation, it's important to know that one can encounter things that are spelled out only briefly in the canon. And this energy system in the body, this body among bodies, is one of them. It can be very obvious to people who encounter it that it's there. And although it may not be recognized right now by Western science, it has been recognized in the past by other medical systems. And it's important to learn to be able to work with it. It's important to learn to be able to manipulate it in such a way that one can make the mind calm, make the mind peaceful, in such a way that one can give rise to emotional states that are conducive to moving forward on the path. Because perception does play this role, a huge role in our life. The mind is the forerunner of all phenomena. If we want to train the mind to be peaceful, if we want our world to be peaceful, then we have to develop intentions that are good, intentions that are wholesome, and be able to keep these things in mind, be able to hold them there. And if we do this, the flow of energy in the body, the way in which it's routed, cuts deeper and deeper grooves so that it can become easier and easier for a person to do this. So perception, intention, these things are, we might call more at the base of it all. But learning to manipulate them can teach one quite a lot about the ways in which the mind interacts with the body and the body interacts with the mind, and can give one quite a lot more tools to work with to move forward on the Buddhist path.